Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's meeting of the Casper County Board of Commissioners. I'd like to start this meeting off with a moment of silent prayer. And pledge allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Next up, we have Board of Election and Review presented by Thomas Bernard.
I do not have any appeals for tonight. Did not get any appeals from the last meeting. We didn't have any appeals in the last meeting and don't have any.
Comments on this?
Mr. Chairman, I would just ask if there's anybody here tonight that wants to appeal.
Is there anyone here tonight that wishes to appeal? Seem to be. We'll move on to public comments. Public comments tonight.
We need to close that.
Yes, we did. Mr. Chairman, we need to close the Board of ENR. This year.
Have,
Have a vote. Yes.
all right. We have a motion to close.
So moved.
So we have a second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Close.
Mr. Chairman, before you move on from the Board of Equalization and Review this evening, I'd just like to note that there is one appeal from the last year's Board of Equalization and Review to the Property Tax Commission filed by Mr. Thomas Wright. And I just wanted to update the board that matter has been set for hearing in August of this year at the Property Tax Commission. So it was related to your prior work as the Board of ENR, and so I just wanted to bring that to your attention tonight. Nothing for you to do, and I understand the vote you just took was to adjourn this year's Board of Equalization and Review, and we'll see you next year at the same time.
No further action or comments on that topic. We'll move on to the next public comments. First up, John Clay.
My name is John Clegg. I reside at 108 J Lane, Providence, North Carolina. I would like this public comment recorded for on the April 3rd, 2023 Commissioners meeting included budget amendment number 7. It shows a maintenance capital outlay budget of $38,800, which was decreased by $32,000 to pay for renovations of the central permitting office, which was relocated in November 2022 from next door to the elections office to the lower floor of the health department. However, alternative funding from central permitting revenues will be utilized instead of maintenance budget. When replacing the cost to maintenance, the amount was incorrect, increasing the budget to $70,000, not just replacing the $32,000 bill. Commissioner Yarborough questioned this expenditure. County Manager Miller stated the total bill for that was $32,000. The bill was paid out of the maintenance budget. As a follow-up, Commissioner Holt said, so it sounds like you just took money out of maintenance and did a project without permission. County Manager Miller answered, no, the money was in maintenance to do general maintenance, to do general renovation or to do whatever needed to be done within maintenance of the county buildings. So that's the way they went about doing it. This has been discussed with the board for quite some time. So this is not a new thing. Due to errors / oversight, this amendment was not approved and a revised budget amendment has been written. Apparently, contrary to Mr. Miller's explanation, this is a new thing. The revised budget now shows the bill originally being paid from public health / environmental capital outlay funds. The direct fees within the public health / environmental health will be used to cover this expense. Now, there is no mention of either reimbursing maintenance for work that was allegedly paid for last November, nor the central permitting office's revenue being utilized. Public health is not central permitting, although environmental health did move into that space several years ago. Additionally, the Health Department Budget Amendment number 9 to be presented. This meeting includes revenues from their direct fees and expenditures from their capital outlay budgets to cover $32,000. So were the funds from the maintenance department used to cover the expenses incurred last November? If so, where is the budget amendment for that? Thank you.
Next on the list is Cody Redding.
I'm Cody Redding. I live at 1168 Ridgeville Road, Prospect Hill, North Carolina. On May 25th, 2022, my wife and I purchased parcel number 013092 from the parent parcel 0133-012. Ronnie Pruitt was owner. On March 29th, 2023, our names, Cody and Rebecca Redding, were placed in the delinquent tax ad for the casual messenger, with no prior written notice of any form for the entire parent parcel. Whitney from the tax office said whenever I called, they didn't know it would be sent out like that, and not to worry, they would take care of it before the list was published in the paper again. The following week, the list was published again. We were still listed as owing delinquent taxes on 159 acres of land. We purchased 17 point some odd acres out of that 159. The attorney who closed was Russell Johnson. I called and spoke with him. He said that we needed to pay the $362 of the parent parcel because the 2022 tax bill does not have the parcel separated. Mr. Bernard returned my call, stated the same with when I discussed the issue with him. I proceeded to pay $370 online, not counting the $9 and some change in fees for an online transaction. Tax department on the entire parcel bill confirmation number 18733-293. I forwarded a copy of the confirmation to Mr. Bernard. He said everything was good to go and we were in the clear. These phone calls, discussions, and payments all took place on April 25th, 2023. On April 15th, we received the very first document from the tax department, which was this past Saturday, saying we had delinquent taxes in the amount of $1,687. It is the final notice document. It goes on to say they're going to seize our property, our bank account, yada, yada, do. I sent Mr. Bernard an email on Saturday, and he had Whitney email me back today. I don't really appreciate that. You should email me yourself. And she stated that off of statutes, because I bought a parcel out of the parent parcel, and the parent parcel hadn't been paid in full, we were tied to that. So does that mean that my wages will be garnished? My bank account's going to be garnished? Who knows? Nobody's explained that. I'll tell you something else. Statute number 105-369 states the tax collector must send a written notice 30 days prior to advertisement. And this past Saturday was the first document I had received. Appreciate y'all's time.
Next on the list, Thomas Wright.
Where the hand is.
What's John, did you steer up the next one? Ron Correa, did you see how the next one, Ron Correa, he stated that the meeting at the property tax commission in Briar, I thought he said August. Yeah, August, not that what he said.
Are you questioning the August date, Mr. Wright?
Yeah, I'm putting the August date because the date I got is saying May the 22nd through the 25th.
Yeah, yes, thank you for that. Your attorney contacted the Property Tax Commission on your behalf and asked for a continuation of the hearing originally scheduled in May for after July. The Property Tax Commission secretary sent an email last week confirming that your case has been continued until the August session. I'm not exactly sure the date because they schedule in blocks. They'll determine the actual date in August 20 days or so before the hearing. I'm happy to, if you'll bear with me, I'll find the potential dates in August if that's helpful for you.
Well, really, that, it don't matter if it's in August, but the pre-hearing, you will set that.
Correct. I will work with your lawyer, Ms. Holdenkamp, to set a preliminary hearing, which by statute has to be done, I believe, 10 days before the hearing. So we've got some time to schedule that pre-hearing conference with you this summer.
Are there any other public comments? If not, we'll move on to commissioner recognitions. Anybody like to recognize anyone tonight? To the next item, approval of the agenda. Any questions or discussions on this? Motion. Got that? All those in favor? Say aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Agenda is approved. Approval. Moving on to approval of the consent agenda. That involves April 3rd, 2023 regular meeting minutes, the 2022 budget amendment number 8, 22-23 budget amendment number 9. Is there any discussion on this? Question, anything anybody would like to say? I have a motion to approve the agenda. Have a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is approved. Next up, we have a presentation on child fatality prevention team review presented by Danielle Elmore and Emily Hodges.
Good evening. My name is Danielle Elmore. I am nursing supervisor at the Castle County Health Department. I also do child health and child fatality and immunization. And I will let Emily introduce herself. I'm the chairperson for the Castle County Child Fatality team.
I'm Emily Hodges. I'm a program assistant at the Castle County Health Department, and I also am the review coordinator for child health.
In front of you, you will see in your packet, it is mandated by the state for us to have a child fatality team for Caswell County. So each county has a team. The purpose of this team, in 1993, the North Carolina General Assembly established a network of local child fatality prevention teams across the state to confidentially review medical examiner records, death certificates, and other records of deceased residents under the age of 18. Each local team consists of representatives from the public, non-public agencies in our community, such as law enforcement, guardian ad litem, the health department, and among others, that we provide services to the children and their families. Also on this team, we have a parents representative that has lost a child as well. The purpose of the report tonight is so that we could give the commissioners a summary of the causes of deaths, the number of cases that Caswell County reviewed, recommended preventions, if any, that have been made to share with the local team, and our accomplishments. The role of the Caswell County Commissioners is to receive the annual report, which contains the recommendations, and advocate for system improvements and needed resources if requested. The Board of Commissioners also appoint members to the local team as identified by the membership. So last year, we had 2 fatalities that the team was able to review. One fatality, the system problem identified, and because it's confidential, we do not give specific information. One of the system problems that was identified was an individual under the legal age to operate an all-terrain and off-road vehicle. That was the cause of that system problem. The team came up with the following guidelines that we submitted to the state. Guidelines should be visible, and it was suggested that the guidelines be in bold print to operate the all-terrain vehicle. It has to be a certain age, which I believe is 6. The school administrator that's on the child fatality team recommended incorporating golf cart ATV safety guidelines during the Bike Safety Week presentation that they do annually. The proposed action was to communicate with the administrators at the local schools in a way to educate our students here in Caswell County and our parents about ATV and golf cart safety. The second fatality that the team reviewed was a drowning. It did not happen in Caswell, it happened out of state, but because it was a Caswell resident, we reviewed that particular death. Recommendations were to have the safety course that is already in the local middle school and the high school curriculum to educate our students and parents about safe swimming and safe outdoor activities to keep our youth safe. Also to inquire to see if they can incorporate something into the 4-H, the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts curriculum safety lesson classes about swimming in public places, especially when there's not a lifeguard on you. And all of these were submitted to the state. So what happens, we, as in Caswell County and the other counties, we submit our reports after the meetings. We have 4 meetings a year. So each quarter we have a meeting, and it's a combined team for Caswell. So it's the child protection plus child fatality. So a representative from DSS, they have the protection part, and we all sit together quarterly, come up with solutions, recommendations that we submit to the state. On a national level, most of our recommendations, therefore all of the recommendations are compiled. And because they're compiled, sometimes it gets to the General Assembly and other things happen. In the past, there may have been an intersection where there were multiple accidents. So therefore, they ended up adding a stop sign to that particular intersection. So a lot of our work that we do, sometimes it is kind of heavy for us to review the deaths of the children, but we know in the long run, the outcome eventually can save the life of another child. So that's the purpose of child fatality team, to prevent deaths happening to other community members. Some of the accomplishments and activities that the Caswell County Child Protection Team did this past year. We were able to go to Chapel Hill for the regional conference, which we had not been able to do since COVID. So that was very exciting. We got to network with other counties. The child annual CPT, the Child Fatality Annual Summary, was completed and we sent it in by the requested date. Also, our team, right now, we have 10 active members, including a parent representative. I would like to thank each of you for allowing me and Emily to speak at the meeting tonight. You all have allowed us to share our successes and dedicated work of this Caswell County local team. We will continue to review child fatalities and make recommendations and take actions to prevent future child deaths. Feel free to contact the Health Director, Jennifer Eastwood, or myself, Danielle Elmore, at the Caswell County Health Department, should there be any questions about our report. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Next up, so I'm on the agenda is county property tax lien newspaper verification. Thomas Bernard.
What we do, and I apologize for not returning his email this morning, but I was sad and handling several other problems I got witnessed. But what we do is when those bills become delinquent, we don't split those out during the current year. In other words, that we have to bill them as of January 1. When if those things are split, well, they usually, we don't know what goes on in the closing, but they usually handle those situations on the buyer and the seller. We have, when it comes time for them to be advertised, we have to go by the statute, it's 105-369. We send out delinquents. I can't guarantee everybody gets anything because we have a lot of complaints. People didn't get delinquents. I said, we don't have anything to do with the post office. But we have to record in the paper the name of the owner of record, date the taxes that came delinquent for each parcel, and if they're unpaid. So I'm trying to work with a software vendor. So if somebody has an issue to purchase like 100 acres and they purchase 10 acres off of that tract, that the name of those 10 acres, instead of, if that individual that owns the 100 acres does not pay, then those names that buy portions of those parcels do not go. But that's what the software does.
Is there a way to implement electronic notification of delinquent taxes before it gets to that point? You were speaking of software and email addresses were provided. Could that be done? Would it be feasible to do that? My level of service is terrible. I do everything I can electronic.
And I understand because mine's the same way. That's a possibility if we have email addresses. But the owners of record would have to send us those email addresses. I would have to get the software vendor, but I'm sure they could write a program to do that. There's a lot of counties have looked at this.
Well, when the lawyer did the deed search, shouldn't it popped up there was delinquent taxes on it?
Yes.
Permission to speak. There was $9,400 in taxes that was took out of our closing costs and paid, which got the taxes up to 2022. And it's been a blame game from the tax department and from the lawyer. The lawyer says the tax department's always behind on their stuff. Like you said, well, the lawyer should do something else. Well, I ain't got time for blame game. I want them that straight.
Like I said, nobody from the tax department was in the closing. We don't know what happens.
Whitney said that she had record of where there was stuff from closing. So, I mean, how does it get put in the GIS system?
We just have where the properties are split. We don't have any details of any closings.
Mr. Bernard,
Yes,
and to be upfront with everyone here, Mr. Redding is my son-in-law. And I'm not speaking on his behalf, I'm speaking as a commissioner and taxpayer myself. I believe that there was approximately a $2,000 or $2,100 tax owed on the entire parcel that he's speaking of. According to Mr. Redding, and I have the receipt where he paid his portion online. Well, he received a bill from your tax department on Saturday for $1,600 and some odd dollars. Why?
because that parcel for 2022 has not been split. It won't be split. So the tax bill will go out to the original owner and subsequent owners.
Why is he receiving a bill for something he doesn't own?
That's just the way the statute written and the way the software works. And that's what I was just saying, trying to see if they can do something for those new buyers that buy a portion of a larger tract, and that owner of the large tract does not pay the taxes, and it doesn't get done at closing, then those names won't go there. And that's a software.
He didn't own the land in 22, did he?
No, and we have to go by January 1 ownership. And he didn't own it January 1, but the portion he got had delinquent taxes on it. Now, he paid them, but when we send the delinquent bill out, it still goes as the January 1 owner.
Why couldn't I have gotten a delinquent bill prior to my name being put in the paper?
Well, I don't know. We send them out, the print vendor prints them, and I don't know what happens to them, but just like.
I don't get a bill,
Mr.
so I have to make a payment on the, and so where does this leave me, having paid for something that I don't even own?
It does not.
Just wait for my bank account to get these?
No, nothing's gonna happen.
If he has paid his portion of the taxes, why would he, I mean, I understand you're saying that it's a state law that is sent out, but that seems so wrong if someone has paid what they owe, that they're even tied in it from that point.
Because it's going off of the January 1 ownership. That's what I'm working with, the software vendor, if they can work that out. When it gets put in our system, that portion that someone buys from a larger tract, that doesn't happen. But, this is the first year we've ever had this issue.
So this has never happened before.
Well, I've never got a complaint. I don't say it hasn't happened, but I haven't had a complaint.
That's just because there's old people and they just went ahead and paid it and helped line the county's pockets. That's why I'm here today, to be sure it don't happen to somebody else.
So Mr. Redding is not liable for any more tax
No.
on that parcel 22, correct?
Correct.
It will be billed correctly for 23.
His parcel will be billed correctly for 23. Those bills will come out in August.
Just so we're all on the same page. Do you feel like you can have this corrected where it doesn't happen to another taxpayer in the future?
I hope so. Like I say, I'm working with the software.
I think, do you mind?
No, go ahead.
I think when the software was built, the software was built off state statute. So it had the requirements of our state statute in the software. So the names that were produced by the software were the names that were by statute supposed to be produced. Now, I think Thomas understands, Whitney understands, I understand. I think y'all understand. It's at no fault of Mr. Redding that his name was put in the paper. He had done exactly what he was supposed to. He had closed on the land exactly like he was supposed to. It was not his fault at all. But by statute, those names that were produced were the names that were supposed to be produced. The statute reads, to collect delinquent taxes assessed on real property, the owner of record of property on which tax is due as of the date of delinquency and any subsequent owner of the property. Unfortunately, when Mr. Redding closed on the property, he became a subsequent owner of the property. And that's the reason Mr. Redding's name ended up in the paper. Now, I think what you're hearing the tax director say is he's trying to work with the software to let that not happen again. But that's going to be a one-off for Caswell County. It's not the way any other software will be built in North Carolina.
Right. And I don't know if it will be legal or not.
Well, it doesn't sound like it would follow statute to me. Unfortunately, the statutes are what they are.
Sounds to me like we need to talk to Senator Bergen, and see if we can get a new statute. Rest of this matter on a matter similar to it, because this is just, it can be in the statute, understand, this is just wrong. It might be legal, but it's wrong.
And I think everybody in this room would agree with you.
We agree. But if you're gonna do that and you're gonna go to Senator Berger, then when a closing is done, my suggestion, when a closing is done, you get a check from the buyer, you get a check from the seller, pay the taxes.
I will not disagree with you at all on that.
And I'm trying to tell, I've been here going on 27 years. And I've tried to tell the closing attorney that for 27 years. That's the way you wouldn't have any issues like this. Some of them do.
I agree.
Some of them do, but like I say, you don't see anybody in the tax office in the closing. And I do apologize for that, but I can't change it.
I'll just use up my comments on it with this. I really would like to see some headway made in the tax office getting into more electronic communication, because it's just the era we're in now, and the mail service can't be trusted. I do everything I can electronically. I've had checks taken out of my mailbox. That's old school. Everybody does things with direct deposit. They pay with credit cards. Y'all are the only place left that I have to write a paper check to.
You pay with a credit card.
Yeah.
But
For more
I would agree with you. If all the taxpayers, they'd have to send an email to us, put in the file. And then, the software would have to be able to do that. Send a notice per email. Because, some people in Caswell County do not have email, but majority do. But I agree with you. That'd be just another way to get in touch with the taxpayer.
Absolutely.
And to address the issue of fees and credit card fees and paying online. Here again, unfortunately, state statute says that taxes have to be paid at par, meaning everybody has to pay the same rate. If the fees were not the same, or if the fees weren't charged to the individual, that at par would change. Am I correct, Thomas?
Correct.
And we would be breaking state statute by absorbing those credit card fees. Even though the credit card bills would be on a pro rata basis, in most cases, the same. $100 tax bill is not going to be the same fees as a $2,000 tax bill, and it throws the at par situation off for the taxes. And unfortunately, that's the reason that we have to charge the fees to the individual, especially in the tax office. So.
Because if the tax bill is $100, $100 has to be paid. If it's costs $3 for the credit card to be used, then it's $100 and $103. But it have at par means they have to be paid in full.
That was a debit card.
Either way, debit card is a Visa debit card, personal consumer, I think is a little bit cheaper.
Are there any more questions or comments on this topic? Hearing none, we'll move on. Thank you. Next item up is the appropriation of Castle County TDA funds. Brian Miller.
Yes, sir. Commissioners, we spoke about this at the last meeting. The Tourism Development Authority, or TDA, has requested $70,000 of the $110,732.87 in their fund. As information for the upcoming budget sessions, they've also requested $26,000 be paid in quarterly installments, which conforms to the statute for the upcoming budget year. So we would ask that the board approve the $70,000 appropriation from the TDA fund now. And we'll speak in more length about the $26,000 during our budget meetings. But I'm happy to answer any questions about the $70,000 appropriation or the TDA that you may have.
Who sits on the TDA?
It's by statute, it has to conform to statute. So many members, I think a third of the members have to be from an authority that collects the fees. So it has to be an Airbnb or a hotel. And then a third of the members have to be from a tourism and development related entity. So the Historical Association, the Chamber of Commerce, or maybe the Visitor Center. And I think the other members can be at large or voted. Is that correct, Brian?
Yes, I believe when originally constituted, there were 3 members, Brian.
Yes.
And under the legislation, 1/3 of the members must be from someone who is, an operator that's subject to the occupancy tax, and 1/2 of the members are individuals who are currently active in the promotion of travel and tourism. So that's the membership. I don't know who the individuals are, but those are the slots, if you will, that have to be filled.
Mr. Miller, the way that it's set up, these fees are collected and we're obligated to turn them over on as accumulated basis, and you're just breaking it up into the way you want it dispersed now, the way it needs to be dispersed at a particular time.
That's correct.
Any other discussion, questions from the board? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is via health letter of support from the
So there's several different interesting aspects of this letter of support, and I'll just hit some of the highlights. The NCACC, the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, they've not taken a position on whether counties should send these letters or not. They're kind of undecided on which way things should go. The LME-MCO, which stands for Local Management Entity or Managed Care Organization, wants to retain care of the foster care program. DHHS says, and this is a quote from a letter that they sent, the status quo is no longer acceptable. They appreciate the efforts of the LME that the LMEs have taken, but they are not in line with what the children need. Our local DSS department says there have been positive changes during the transition between Cardinal Health and VIA. but VIA is still not perfect. There's still struggles at times. So what I will tell you is DSS is probably the entity within the county that deals with VIA Health the most. So, and I'll also say that we've seen a push for consolidation of DSS services and the LME MCO in recent years from the state. I don't believe these consolidations are constructive for Caswell. I believe our DSS staff is amazing and does a terrific job. They are tired, they're burnt out. Many times they go underappreciated and overlooked. They do a tremendous job that many of us would not and could not do. However, I believe the needs of Caswell County's children are best met by Caswell County workers and residents. Our workers pay out of their pockets for items that clients can't afford, and they aren't in their budget. They'll take up donations, and these are the kind of workers we have working at our DSS department. What I'll tell you is Commissioner Jeffries sits on the VIA Health Board. The assistant county manager, she sits on the VIA Health Board along with Commissioner Jeffries. Our DSS director, and they're in favor of sending the letter, correct?
Right.
Our DSS director, although she admits things are not perfect with VIA, she says they're better than they were with Cardinal. So she is in favor of sending the letter. They're the people closest to this issue. So my recommendation is to take their recommendation and approve the letter and let the letter be sent. So I'm happy to answer any questions I can for you. And if I can't answer them, Mr. Jeffries may be able to. Or Miss Gwen sits on the DSS board, she may be able to.
She's probably better able to talk about why they are recommending VIA.
I think you get me mixed up with someone else.
I don't know exactly who she's saying.
So VIA, VIA is the LME MCO that took over after Cardinal left. Cardinal was merged, let's just say merged with VIA, because of a lot of seemingly irregularities that were occurring within Cardinal. There was a lot of outcry from the counties being served by Cardinal at that time. And there were a lot of issues. And because of that, Cardinal ended up merging with VIA. So VIA came in and we had our choice to go with a couple of different other agencies. And this is just not against VIA, what the state is trying to do. It's against all of the LME MCOs, not just VIA. We chose VIA. And VIA is doing a better job than Cardinal was doing beforehand. But these kind of situations are just difficult, just to be dealing with families, dealing with children, dealing with the emotional and mental needs of the children. It's just difficult. So what I would say is Diane Moorfield, our DSS director, she deals with this on a daily basis. Mr. Jeffries, Ms. Gwen, they both sit on the DSS board. I think they'll tell you that Diane recommends sending the letter. Mr. Jeffries, Ms. Aisha Gwen, they sit on the DSS, on the VIA Health Board, and they both recommend sending the letter. So based on their recommendations, I would recommend sending the letter.
Let's do I'll make a motion to send the letter. Second. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Next up, we have, the budget session scheduled. Mr. Miller.
So commissioners, in your agenda packet, there was schedule laid out for your budget sessions. I believe they begin this Friday at 9 a.m. We're happy to entertain any questions or talk to you about the schedule or amend the schedule in whatever way you need us to amend it.
Mr. President, would be out of town in case on May 12th, but will not be for the rest of the time I work.
I'll be gone May 19th.
Question,
Yes, sir.
since I'm new to this, as two other board members are, three other board members are, four of us are new to this process. Just hypothetically, if we missed one of these meetings. And we had a concern over something that fellow board members talked about, it could still be discussed
Oh,
at the
absolutely.
following meeting.
Absolutely.
There's nothing that's gonna be locked down, other members locked out, if we couldn't make one of the meetings.
You're exactly right. That's
Okay.
exactly the case.
Could you touch on the voting process on the budget for the new members? When the items will actually be voted on?
The budget, so you're going to be given a book, a set of data that is our budget. You will go through, as the process goes through, you will take votes or consensus on different items that you bring up, that we talk about. Now, that's not to say if Commissioner Holt misses a meeting and at the next meeting, he's there and he says, whoa, I know something about this that I think everybody else needs to know. Doesn't mean it can't be brought back up and changed. Beyond that, beyond those votes, that set of data that you receive is never voted on again. There's not a complete vote on that book. What you vote on is the budget amendment. And the budget ordinance, excuse me. The budget ordinance, after you've been through that whole process and we know the wishes of the board, we take that information and put it into the budget ordinance. And the budget ordinance is what we operate from. Now, we have that line item detail, but the budget ordinance in your final vote on the budget, that budget ordinance is what you'll vote on.
With that being said, the members that are going to be missing meetings, would you like to try to have them rescheduled, or you want to go with the schedule as proposed?
Is it Friday work out better for you?
Right,
Just back it down.
I like to go with the schedule we have, and if it doesn't work out, then we can go back to it, say, I may be out the 21st, but be here on the 28th. If there's some controversy about what, could we not bring that back around up at that time?
You could.
So I like the schedule.
More comments? Have a motion to approve the schedule. Second. All those in favor, aye. Opposed likewise. Motion carried. County manager updates. Brian Gillen.
Commissioners, I have two updates for you, and as always, I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. I wanted to just let you know that we have not received the paperwork back from the NCDIT Great Grant. The state is supposed to send us that paperwork for voting purposes for the board. As soon as we get that paperwork, we'll have it on your next agenda. But as to this date, we've not received that paperwork. Number two, I wanted to let everybody know that May 19th, our solid waste department, in conjunction with the town of Yanceyville, will have a shredded day. That means you can bring your documents in that you no longer want and have them shredded for free by a professional shredding company that'll have a truck out there, and they will be shredded on site. It's not one of these, we're going to take your documents away and shred them somewhere else. They'll be shredded there on site. That's going to occur from 10:30 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. Here in Yanceyville. There will be a food truck, so if somebody needed to come at lunch, there would be food available if they wanted to do something like that. We are going to have a flyer to come out soon. We'll be posting those flyers in various locations, so everybody will be aware of the shredded day.
Where would that shredder be? A site, where is the site?
It will probably be located either at the pavilion or in the town of Yanceyville parking lot, where there's ample parking and ample space for people to be able to attend, to drive around and drop their boxes off.
I got a couple questions.
Sure.
Last week, we talked about this 911 center. Obviously, I must have missed something because I don't know if it got changed over to Amendment 8 or what. I was looking for Amendment 7. The way you were describing it last week, you led me to believe that it was being run through maintenance.
Well, that so the budget amendment, I'm sorry.
Obviously, I took it that maintenance was doing it, which is not true. So can you help me out with that? Because I went over there and I've talked to Quality, and I actually have a contract from them for right at $100,000 that they've wrote. Actually, it's not even contracts, purchase order for that job. I need for you to explain some of these things to me. One is, I don't know anything about this job being approved. I know it must have happened before I got on board here, but you know, $100,000 is not maintenance to me on a building. That's a complete job. Can you explain what's going on over there?
So you're talking about the EMS center, I think.
Yes.
The EMS group. So that was a grant that was received from NCDHHS.
Yes.
Or no, from State Emergency Management. For
That was the first thing that
$236,000 or something like that, with no county match, to upfit this building.
that was not just for that though. That was for anything you kind of wanted with buildings or stuff like that.
No, that was specifically
For that job.
for that job. Yeah, and that was to retrofit the building, outfit it with furniture, heating and air, those kind of things, to outfit and do what needed to be done to the building to make it an emergency management headquarters center and to provide office space for some EMS folks.
Okay. Wouldn't you think though, on something this sizable that you would talk to someone else, or you just, is this the way it's been usually run, that you just head it all up? Because I don't understand, like, he showed me his contract and it doesn't even show what they're supposed to be doing. Is there a set of plans with, I'm supplying these cabinets, I'm supplying this kind of electrical?
My understanding is there is a set of plans.
This is just a vague purchase order. And 98,000, I mean, is that the complete job? Is it done?
That's to build out the interior space.
Carpet, doors, cabinets,
Yes, everything, well,
electrical heat system.
yes. Everything that needs to be done inside the building will be done for that. And the rest is for building inspections. They have to pay for a permit. For upfitting the building with furniture and whatever else needs to be done within the building.
Okay, I'd like to see where that was listed out, you know, but. What do you think it's complete right now?
What do I think is complete?
Completion of it.
I don't know what percentage they're at as far as it being complete. I don't know what the percentage is.
It's
I
less,
know.
you were talking about, you needed that money for work in place. And
For what?
for the work in place is how you put it, exact words. Just from going over into my experience, you're lucky if you're 40%.
So I think we're talking about two different buildings.
We're talking about right beside where
Yeah, so last week, we were talking about the $32,000. And that was the upfit of the environmental health.
Yeah, environmental health,
Yeah, and that's below the health department.
right, they moved out of that building.
that was a different, you talked about that at a different time. Then we started talking about the other.
That was the
where you
budget
said you
amendment.
needed to come back to zero, and we've turned that down.
That was the budget amendment for environmental health that we talked about at the last meeting.
I'd like for this corporate to go back and look at that in, because I know it said. We were talking about 90.
They can-
Well, we're happy to go back and look. And it should be in the set of minutes in your agenda.
It would have been in the last week.
So last week's,
We did talk about the thing downstairs.
yeah,
That
so,
was the building inspection.
so there was an EMS. There was an EMS capital outlay on the budget amendment last week for $144,000. That was for an ambulance.
Yeah.
Okay, that it says under the 32,000, it says central permitting revenues, which is environmental health, building inspections, planning. That's the $32,000, and the maintenance capital outlay was the $32,000 that was increased. That budget amendment is technically saying you're increasing revenues by $32,000 and expenditure $32,000. But after discussing it with the board, we decided to make it more straightforward and put that $32,000, the expense, rather than having it in maintenance, just have it in environmental health as capital outlay to cover those expenditures.
I have a question, something that caught my attention. Said the overall figure for the grant was $200,000.
Yes, that's correct.
And the value of the contract that Commissioner Holt was looking at is 90,000. What about the balance in that money? Is that going to be spent?
So that's used to upfit the rest of the building. And honestly, I'm not sure if the mechanical is included in that 98.
He's already set the units in the ceiling, and he said he hadn't cut the hole through the roof. I would take it that it was.
Okay, so if that's included, the rest of that money will either have to be used for the upfit of that building, And if any money is not used for the fit of that building, it'll have to be remitted back to the state emergency management.
Any more?
One question, Mr. Miller, we'll change gears completely.
Okay,
Broadband, spectrum.
okay.
How many subcontractors, do you know how many subs?
I'm gonna tell you what, buddy, there's a lot of,
That is, and this is my personal opinion, that is the poorly designed way to do work I've ever seen. It'll be group works here for 2 days, then the next 2 days, they'll be 10 miles away, then there'll be a different group come in and pick up where they left off. If they would put a group, one subcontractor, say, you do this section, when you finish, you're done. But they hop around, I can see why it costs so much.
I cannot explain to you the rhyme or reason for how they work and why they work. What I can tell you is they've turned on an additional 532 residents since our last in-person meeting, which was less than a month ago. So they are making headway. And I'm sure there is a rhyme or reason to their madness. But yeah, I've seen the same thing, Commissioner Yarborough. I've seen the exact same thing you're talking about. And
I got a story for you. They pulled up in my driveway last Thursday. Blowed the horn. This is one of those trucks saying, I come up from the bar. He said, I need to get out in your field. He said, if I get stuck, you got a tractor, pull me out. I said, yeah. He said, well, how about your neighbor? And he just happened to be up on that farm he lives in Raleigh, he was turkey hunting. So I called him, he comes up there and meets him. He says, I'll be back in the morning. Never shows up. That guy stays another day waiting on him because his gate's locked. Doesn't show up again. Then the next night, he comes up my driveway at 5 o'clock and says, I gotta do this. I was out there till midnight and he still wasn't through to lock that man's gate. I mean, I don't get it, but. And then he's telling me I need to run PVC all the way to my house so he can pull that line. So I'm like, no.
What if they, I know you've probably told us more for completion date as far as spectrum goes.
so what I've told you before is I don't like to give you dates. Because if I give you dates, then somehow or another, it's on my shoulders. I don't know. I would say July, August.
I was thinking you were saying late summer.
Yeah, I would say July, August.
The rain doesn't help.
No, the rain doesn't.
But as soon as spectrum finishes, this next company is able to come in to work on that north side.
Well, they can come in just as soon as the contracts are let. They don't have to wait for Spectrum to finish. So, and here again, not my deal. I don't have any control over it. But what they have told me, what Zytel has told me, is they have the cable. They have everything they need. They're ready to get started and they want to get started as soon as they can. So I will tell you, I have another commission meeting with the state on broadband the end of this month. I expect a lot of the issues, maybe not all of the issues that you've spoken about, but some of the issues will be discussed at that meeting, and hopefully I can bring back some additional information to present to the board on the 1st.
Your best guess. When all of this is done, Spectrum, Zytel, everything's done, that we can receive either federal or state money. What percentage of the county residents will be able to get online?
Any county resident that wants an internet connection will have it.
Okay.
That's when you go through. I understand there's skepticism about that. So when you look at Zytel, who's north, you look at Spectrum, who's kind of all over the place, central, eastern, southern. But they don't cover all of it because it was done by census block. Then you look at the upcoming program that we have after the Great Grant, which is called CAB, which we set aside $350,000.
Yeah.
$350,000 for CAB out of the ARPA funding to match a grant for CAB. So that'll put our CAB award at about $4 million, which if we apply for it, we're pretty much guaranteed to get it. There's over 100 million, no. I don't remember how much there is for CAB, but there's at least enough for every county in North Carolina who wants it to get $4 million. So if we apply for it and we have that much need, we can get probably $4 million. And that will build out, and you as a board will have more control over that. And that's because we get to pick the places where that internet is deployed. Still has to be to unserved or, and here's the key, underserved areas of the county. So somebody that came in and said, well, I've got internet, but it's 20 up or 20 down and 5 up. So it's still slow. It's still not good. That knocked them out of some of these other programs because they still met the national definition for having broadband. This will allow us to go into those areas where the internet still isn't good, but target unserved and underserved areas and put those out for an RFP and let providers bid on those areas. I would imagine at that time, since Spectrum is kind of all over the place, they will have a large interest in some of those areas. I would also assume that Zytel will have some interest in some of those areas. So we can build out to those areas. And then there's this one program, and I can never remember the name of this program, but I refer to it as Last Mile. And Last Mile will allow us to connect any resident off the beaten path that wants internet service. So that's why I say any resident that wants internet service. There may be some homes that don't have it, but it's because they haven't requested it.
Questions or anything? Noah's presentation. Not, we'll move on to commissioner comments. Want to have any? Announcements and upcoming events. April 18th, 2023, Farm Bureau dinner at 7:30 at Farm Bureau located on 1508 Main Street, Yanceyville, North Carolina. May 1st, 2023, Commissioners meeting at 6:30 p.m. here at the Gun Memorial Library. Next item up is a closed session to consult with an attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged in North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A3. Do I have a motion to go into closed session?
Mr. Chairman, before you vote on that motion, I'd like to name some parties to an existing but as of yet unfiled lawsuit for which you will receive advice this evening. The parties to that existing but unfiled lawsuit are Ernestine Hamlet, Charles Blackwell, and Trudy Blackwell plaintiffs versus Caswell County and the Caswell County Board of Commissioners in their official capacity.
Okay. With that said, do I have a motion? I have a second. All those in favor? Say aye. Aye. Opposed? Now in closed session.